Hello everyone and welcome to my coloring corner. Today is Collection Mania Monday and we're going to be looking at the Flowood colored pencils. It's a 72 colored pencil set and it comes in this wonderful tin. It does have a very similar logo to say Arteza and what was the other one? Mark Art. There's another one. But they're different. They're very different. They have on the back of the box and the back of the tin your color chart. They are numbered, however, they're not named. So when you go through your color chart, you will find that there is no names on the pencils themselves or on the chart here either. It does go in to tell you a little bit about the pencils, you know, that they're a rich, vibrant pigment, expertly balanced shades, provides superior blending, velvety cores, nice matte black finish on the casing. Excuse me. Whether you're a hobbyist or a professional artist or a beginner, these premium pencils are ideal for your creative work, from quick sketches to intricate details. Now, the interesting thing that I find that they have actually put on their packaging is that they are permanent and waterproof. So I'm actually going to test that today because they have it on their packaging. You can't say that you're permanent and waterproof on your packaging and not be permanent and waterproof. So we will test that. And like I said, it does come in this nice little tin. However, they use these really flimsy little plastic things. So of course I've removed my pencils from the tin and put them in my bag. So we're going to put this aside. Down there where all tins go to die. Actually, I keep all of my tins. I'm weird. I have like a cupboard full of just tins. And that's of course the picture that we're going to color on later. And I've got my mat down so that we can color on the page there, as well as use a bit of a paintbrush on it. So as you can see, these are, I'm going to switch over to the close-up so I can show you a little bit better. So it says Flowood color pencils, and you know, this one here looks like the stamp was cut off, and then it's got the color on the end here with the color name. This one here doesn't look like it was dipped very well because the black is showing through it. I have another one like that as well with the yellow, where you can definitely see the black all the way through it. So I don't think the tips on the end are going to be true to the color of your pencil because they've dipped it over top of black, which is going to change that color. So I would not rely on that as your color. I would definitely do a color chart just so that you have a better view of what colors are what. And of course I have done a color chart, and we have two different whites. One is a little bit more of a gray white than a white, and one is a pure white. And then we have a wonderful peachy color here, which is really, really good for skin tone, for a light skin tone. Then we have gold and silver, and it's actually a pretty gold. It's a bit of a brown gold, but it's still a pretty gold. And then we have silver, and then we have a coral pink orange color, and then two lighter yellows, a very light yellow, a medium yellow, and a dark yellow. And then we go into a yellow orange, an orange, a dark orange, and a red orange. And then we go into our red colors. We have a few different red ones. We have 5 different really red ones. This one here is more of a really pale light red, not quite pink, but not quite red. It's one of those odd colors. But we do have a nice dark red here, as well as a medium dark red, so that balances out a bit. And this could also be used as a bright pink, and so could this one down here. And then we have a couple of pinks and a really, really, really light green, almost a yellow, but it does have a green tinge to it. And then a huge amount of greens. We've got a bright green, more of a yellow green, a green, a blue green, a medium green, a dark green, and then a couple of more blue greens into our pine greens. And these look very close on the paper. This one here is definitely darker than this one. This one has more blue in it. And then we have our lime type green into our avocado type green. And then our very dark green, almost olive, dark olive green. And then we go into our blue greens and into our blues. There's a lot of green. Then we go into our blues. We have our lights, our mediums, our darks into our aquatic, and then our darks into our purples. And it has a really good selection of all the different levels of purple, whether it's a red violet or a blue violet or just a violet or oh, what is the other one? Oh, brain just decided, nope, I'm not working anymore. And then we go into our darker purples, into our light browns, and into our brick colors, our terracottas. And then it gets weird. Because then we go into a reddish, almost a dark cherry color, and then a burgundy, and then into some more browns, and then we go back to purple. Now this is probably a magenta type color, but it shouldn't be here. It should be elsewhere. And then we go back into the browns, and then we start into our grays. And it does have a fairly good selection of gray. However, it has one light warm gray, one light, and I wouldn't even call this light, I'd call it a medium cool gray, and then into a dark warm gray and a dark cool gray, and then into a light brown black into a black. So it just seems that there's a really good selection of colors in this set for the fact that it is only a 72-piece set. But usable colors, and I'm not saying anything is wrong with the set. I really actually like the set, and I like the way they lay down. But for usable colors combinations, I think it's lacking a little bit, and I would want more colors. Now, the way that they're numbered, I'm assuming that there's probably going to be a 120 set at some point, or they've already got a 120 set branded as something else. So whether that's true or not, I'm not absolutely positive. That's my opinion, and my opinion only. I have no evidence of that. But that's my thoughts on it. I'm going to grab the sheet that we're going to color, and we're going to color this little flower set here. So we need to grab some floral colors, and let's take our color sheet so we know what colors we're grabbing, because like I said, you can't just rely on the butt end of these. So we want number 76, I think. Yes, number 76 and number 81 see what other flowers are there. We want some blues, so we'll grab this one and this one. And then we want the yellows, so we'll grab the light and the medium yellow. And we want an orange for the centers. Now, do we want yellow orange or do we just want orange? Yeah, let's just do orange because the yellows will be bled out by that. So, and then we want some greens for our centers and our leaves, or our vines and our leaves, I should say, stems. Okay, so we've got a fairly good selection here, and I want a couple of pinks for these little tulips here. So we want actually, let's do this, number 4, and there we go. Okay, so we've got a good selection of colors here. We've got some purples, we've got some blues, we've got some pinks, we've got some yellows, greens, and that kind of thing that we would need for our florals. So let's start with sharpening some of these because some of them are really dull. So yeah, I'm going to sharpen these purple ones because I want to do these ones in purple. So we're going to take a look at how well they sharpen. And I'm using the Dahl 133 hand crank sharpener. They sharpen quite nicely. They are a 3.3 millimeter core. And they sharpen quite nicely. They look to be quite well centered. There's not a huge amount of difference in that sharpen. Now this one here looks like it might have a bit of an issue, so we're going to sharpen it and find out. That's the only thing I don't like about these dipped ends on pencils, is sometimes you can't tell just by looking at the pencil if it's centered. And this one's not too bad. It's not completely centered, but it's not horrible either. So we're going to sharpen up the rest of these here and take a look at them. Now, the one thing that I do find really interesting that they have claimed is that they're waterproof. And to claim that on a box of colored pencils has been a bit of a contention in the colored pencil community. I never assume that a colored pencil, when I purchase it, is going to be water resistant, especially if I've only paid $10, $15, if not less, for a set of pencils. I just automatically assume that they're colored pencils. They're not that they're not going to move with water. But when you think about it, they're just pigment in wax. And if you're coloring with it, you're breaking down that wax barrier. So if I was to say dip a colored pencil in water, the pigment isn't just going to fall apart. You know, the color pencil itself isn't just going to fall apart. But when you color with it, you're breaking down that binder and opening up that pigment because you want the color. You want the pigment to show. So I don't know if that's how we're ending up with movement with liquid in our color pencils when we color with them, or if you know, I'm just talking out of my hat. It's just an assumption. It's just my thoughts on it. Um, like I know that when I'm doing this, I'm breaking down that end. You know, it's just common sense. You're breaking down that tip and moving it around your page. So common sense would tell you that when you break something down, it's going to have more susception to other influences. Now I'm going to move you in a bit here so that you can see a little bit better. I'm just going to make sure that you're in focus. There we go. Just wanted to make sure that you could see what I was doing because this is a really, really small picture. But when you're breaking down those binders, I think, you know, common sense would say that that is making that more susceptible to move the pigment with other products such as water or gum salt or anything like that. I don't know if there is an ability to say, okay, that's waterproof on any colored pencil. I don't know. I've got a couple that are water resistant and don't move a lot with water. But some of the deeper colors, such as purples and reds and stuff like that with a really, really deep pigment, do move a little bit, even on my really expensive pencils, like on my Holbeins. Even on my Holbeins, if I color really, really hard with a red and then put water on it, that red is going to move. So I can't say that any of my pencils are waterproof. I can say that I have some that are water resistant, but I can't say that all of my pencils or any of my pencils are 110% waterproof. So for a company to actually say that their pencils are waterproof is interesting to me. And of course we will test that after we're done with our coloring today. I'm not going to test it on this page because this is my pretty page. So we've laid down some purples. So this one is number 76 for the light and number 81 for the dark. If you have these pencils, you can of course color along or, you know, just watch. I'm just showing the laydown of these pencils right now. And so far the colors are laying down quite nicely. They're not needing to be blended with a blender, which is really good because, you know, some pencils, even on cardstock, you have to blend them with a blending stub so that you get that vibrancy in the color. And I'm getting a really vibrant color, and I'm not needing to do that with the blending stub, so which is great. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to do these two little tulips here, and I'm going to do them pink. And I'm doing this really, really light pink down first because I'm just going to leave the very tips of the tulips with the light pink. And then I'll go back over it. Oh, this one here doesn't seem to be sharp. Yeah, I'm going to sharpen this a bit because that is way too small of a spot to not have a sharp tip. And I'm just going to bring this all up to where it's almost to the tip of the flower, and then I'm going to leave that tip in that light pink. It's almost a baby skin pink tone. And I'm just going to go over it just to blend that together and heighten that pink color a bit on the tips. Just like that. Make it all purty. And then we're going to take our yellows and we're going to do this wonderful flower in the center here. And we're just going to take our very light yellow. And this is a very, very light yellow. It's a lovely, lovely pastel yellow. So I hope everybody had a wonderful weekend. I was able to actually do two different things over the weekend. I did my live stream where we colored the picture of the two little bunnies from Minuet de Bonheur. And I finished my Monia Gates little lady coloring, which was great. That one was a long video, but I was determined. I really wanted to get it done. I was really enjoying coloring it, and I didn't want to stop. So I just drug you guys along for the ride. I actually enjoyed it so much I've already started another one, so, and almost finished it. So we've got that all done up there. So it's got a nice pastel yellow, a nice darker yellow, and we'll make sure that we get all of it together. The darker yellow I just used at the very base. And of course I could put a bit of orange or something there just to show the shadows, but I'm really not worried about it right now. Now for the leaves, we're going to take our really dark green, which is number 49. And I'm just going to do our stems. And our little vines. Try to stay on the line, but you know, sometimes you just fall off. I fall off the lines all the time. I think that may be one of those reasons why I have very little confidence in my coloring, because I am never in the lines. But I've embraced that and just move on with life with it now. So I'm just adding a bit of detail to these little leaves here. Even though they probably don't have any. So it's... Then I'm just going to put in just a little bit of color on each of these. And I'll come back with the next green, which is a nice light yellow green, and accentuate that color. Put in our lights. Now this one here is a pretty good light green as well, but I wanted a little bit of a yellow green just to make that light stand out a bit. Now with these really tiny leaves, I'm actually going over some of them the most, oh, my tongue is not working. I'm going over the little tiny leaves with an entire coloring with that medium green. And then I'm going to come in with that lighter green, which is number 44. And we're just going to finish that off. Now, if you find that your leaves aren't green enough for you, of course, you can go over it with the darker green. And darken them up a bit. But to me, I think they're pretty good. Then we're going to take that orange and we're going to do this. And then we're going to take the darker purple and we're going to go down here. And we're going to fill in those little spots. And then we're going to take this darker blue and fill in a couple of these little spots. And then we're going to take our bright pink and fill in the rest of the spots. And there we have our little coloring with the Flowood colored pencils. So let's grab our pen and make sure that we put Flowood on there. So there's our Flowood colored pencils. Like I said, I didn't require any blending of them. However, I do have my blending pencil available, so we can definitely do that and see how they behave. And it does brighten them up quite a bit, and they do blend together quite nicely. Now, I was surprised when I first bought these on how well they covered on not just cardstock, like this is on cardstock, but even on a coloring book. And I don't color in coloring books a lot, so I don't know with all paper. But in the coloring books that I do have that I do color in, this did very, very nicely. However, I have found lately that even the coloring books that would normally not color in, that the Amazon paper or the CreateSpace paper that Amazon uses seems to be a higher quality than it used to be. So hopefully that will make coloring in coloring books better. So there's our cute little picture. I think it did really well. The pencils coated and covered beautifully, which is fantastic. Now we're going to take a look here. This is the Fila. And as you can see with the Fila, we have most of the same colors. We've got some pinks, we've got some purples, we've got some blues, we've got some greens. And it blended together beautifully and covered really nicely. Now I did mess up and do one video that did not work because I didn't turn on my mic, and during that video I completed this coloring here with the Filas as well. So it gives you a good idea of the color ranges available. The Fila is a much larger set. The Fila does have 152 pencils and is a very, very nice large set. So, but in comparison, they are a lower price a lower price budget-friendly pencil, the same as the Flowood. Another one that is a very good comparison is the Deli. Both have about the same size of core, about the same cost, and the same number of pencils. So in comparison, I think both of them are pretty close. I like the way the Delis blend a little bit. Well, I like the way these blend too. Both are really, really good little pencils. My downside to the Flowood, as well as the Deli, is there's just not enough colors. I like a really big set. Alright, so I'm going to take that, I'm going to put it away, and I'm going to grab another piece of paper here out of my printer. Now this is a 150-pound cardstock, and I want to use it because I want to be able to use moisture on it without getting it everywhere. So we're going to grab some of our reds. So I'm going to grab number 27, which is a bright red. Maybe number 25. Actually, we'll grab number 25. So we've got number 25, and then we're going to grab our brightest yellow, which is number 13. And we're going to grab this purple. And let's grab the dark blue here. So we'll grab this blue and a green. So let's use this green. Okay, so we have a green, a blue, a red, a yellow. Oh, is that one a red? Let's look at the chart because I'm not positive that that's a red. I think that's a red orange, maybe? No, I think the 27 probably better. I'm arguing with myself. It's okay. Sitting here having a fight with myself. It's all good. So we're going to use number 27 because I think it's more of a red than number 25. More of a pure red. Okay, so I'm going to zoom you back out here so you can see more of what I'm doing. So of course all you see here is, so we've got our purple, and we're going to do little swatches, and I went across once, back once, cross once, and back once. So that's 2 passes. Well, let's do 3. 3 passes back and forth on each color. So that one is a purple, and here's a green. And I'm not pressing hard because I really don't want to ruin the pencil or damage the pencil, because I do really like these pencils. And there's number 3. And then we have our bright yellow. And then there's number 2. And number 3. And then we have our blue. And then one more. And there's our 3rd pass. And then we have our red. Now, typically, these are the colors that are going to move the most because they are the ones that have a higher density of pigment. They are the darker colors, and sometimes they just move more. Okay, so that's 3. Okay, so we've got, I'm just going to focus you in there a little bit better. Maybe. Or make it worse. There we go. So now I do have a glass of water, and it's clean water, as you can tell, a paper towel to wipe off the paintbrush with, and my paintbrush is stained with a bit of blue, so first I will make sure that that blue won't come out just by rubbing it on the bottom there and rubbing it on the paper towel, and none of that blue is coming off. So that is a stain. So once, twice, 3 times, and watch it flow. It moves. It is definitely not, as they claim, of waterproof. That only took 3 little passes, and I'm not rubbing it hard to move that pigment. And I'm not using a lot of water. There's 1, 2, and I can see it coming off on the brush. And here's number 3. So it is moving as well, quite a bit. Now I am rubbing my paintbrush on the paper to make sure that I have all of that color out before I go on to the next one. It is, of course, so there's 1, 2, and 3. And that also, as you can see on the brush, has broke it down and moved it. So if it's doing that with these lighter colors like the green and the yellow, kind of expected it with the purple and the red. Wasn't quite expecting it with the blues, greens, and yellows. We've got number 1, number 2, and number 3. And I barely have any water on here at all. If I put a little bit more water on there, it's probably going to move a whole lot more. Yeah. So absolutely definitely not waterproof, and they really need to take that off of their packaging. Now I'm going to make sure I have water on it. So there's 1, 2, and 3. So absolutely not waterproof. I would not suggest using a water product over top of these unless you want it to move. Even though it says right on the package, waterproof. However, here's the next test. So we know that the pigment, once it's put on the paper, is not waterproof. Now let's see if this is what they mean by waterproof. I'm going to dip it right in the water. Nope, absolutely not. Definitely not waterproof. So the pigment just becomes liquid until you get past where the water was. So I would definitely not say that these are waterproof at all in any sense of the word, even as a dry pencil, as the whole pencil. If you were to stick these in a bucket of water, they would dissolve. You would come back and find no cores whatsoever. like I said, that's what happened when I put it in the water. It just softened that core right up. And now that I've wiped it all clean, this is what it should have done. So yeah, I wouldn't say that they're waterproof at all. My opinion, although the test doesn't really lie. That's 2 passes. That's 3 passes with a fairly dry brush. So yeah, don't believe everything you read on a package. I personally never ever assume that my pencils are going to be water resistant, mainly because, like I said, if you think about it logically, what is holding that pigment in, which is what the color is just a bit of wax, or a bit of wax and oil mixed, or whatever the core binders are that they use. It's just a bit of binder. And what we're getting out of it when we color with it is a very thin layer of that binder, but a thicker layer of the pigment. The more pigment we put down, the more friction that we give that pencil and put that down. What my wondering is and what my thought is the more that we do this on a toothy paper, how much of that binder is being broken down and dissipating to move that pigment around. You know, like if I was to go over this now with, say, my blender pencil, I expect it to move. So why are we not expecting it to move if we use a paintbrush? Things to contemplate. But for a budget-friendly 3.3, almost 4 millimeter core pencil, on its own, without any water, it does very, very nicely. It covers beautifully. Like I said, this is a 110-pound cardstock. It's doing quite well on it, even blending with itself and covering up any sort of white spot there is, which is really, really nice. With the blender pencil, I can make it burnished quite nicely, move it over a little bit. I've pressed a little too hard in a couple of areas just to see how much of it would peel off, and quite a bit of it does if you press too hard. But that's typical for any blender. If you press too hard, you're just going to peel your pigment off and peel the wax up, especially with a wax blender. But it does really nicely with the blender. Stop experimenting with it now. This is the last bit of my blender. Yeah, as you can see, my my favorite blending pencil, my Caran d'Ache, is starting to be itty bitty. So I'm going to have to sharpen the other one soon, and I don't want to. I'll use this one up until it's all gone. It's getting there though. It's almost time to retire it. But that's my opinion with them, is that definitely not living up to their statement on the back of their packaging that they're waterproof or even water resistant. They're not. I don't know why pencils aren't coming up waterproof or water resistant. I have a couple of thoughts on it. Like I said, you know, we're adding color to paper and removing those binders and possibly doing it that way and creating that ability for water to get into the pigment. However, just dipping this pencil into the water sort of kills that idea all the heck, doesn't it? Because as soon as I dipped it in the water, the pigments and the binders just disappeared, and it became like coloring with a piece of paint stick. So I don't know. I don't know why they claim that. I don't know why any company claims that. Um, like, for example, just as a comparison, let's see, I have a couple of different sets out. No, all three of those are cheap sets. So let's look at an expensive set. And this is the only one I really have handy. I just want to grab something that has the right colors. There we go. So this set here is the Brunzell design colored pencil set. This is an expensive set of pencils. I'm just going to grab the red. Beautiful set of pencils. Absolutely love them. Love, 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 love them. So I'm going to grab the red and I'm just going to do 3 passes. 1, 2, 3. Now these are a much harder pencil, I think, than the other ones, in my opinion. I'm going to turn this over so it's clean and dry. Rinse this off the best I can. And rub it on here to make sure that it's all gone. And it's just a bit of staining on my paintbrush. Now make sure I have water on it, but not too much. And even though these don't move as much, they still move. These are an expensive brand of pencils. You know, and they're moving just as much as those did, in my opinion. So even your expensive pencils, I would not say that they are waterproof. You know, I have a ton of different expensive pencils. Let's look at some, but you know, everybody's favorite. Well, not everybody's, but most people's favorite. Prismacolor. I have a set of Prismacolor here. So we're going to grab one of the bright colors or dark colors, red colors from Prisma. So let's look. Here we go. So this one is crimson red. I'm just going to give it a sharpen. I don't use my Prismas very often, so they get a little bit of wax buildup on them. So this is PC 924 Crimson Red. And I'm just using a medium touch, not a heavy touch, not a light touch. And I'm going back 3 times. So that's 1, 2, doing the same layers as I did on the cheaper pencil. Okay, so there's our crimson red. Again, I'm going to show you that there is no leftover red on that pencil or on the paintbrush up here. So I'm going to grab some water, make sure it's not too wet, but wet enough. And we're just going to go 1, 2, and see it break down, and there's 3. And it just broke right down just like everything else. And this is a Prismacolor Crimson Red. I find that with the reds especially, water is going to break down that colored pencil. It's not just the cheap pencils that happens to. Prismacolors aren't cheap. Bronzeal Designer Series pencils are not cheap. It will happen to any pencil you're going to use. So if you put a wet medium on top of your colored pencils without sealing it first, you're going to get some bleed over. Make sure that you either seal your colored pencils before you put your wet medium on top, or you put your wet medium down and put your colored pencils over it after it dries. That is my personal opinion, not, anything else. Of course, I'm not going to ever tell you how to color or what you can do and what you can't do and that sort of thing. But in my colorings especially, when I am going to use something wet that's really wet, I'm going to make sure that I have protected my pencil before I put that down, or that I've put that wet medium down first and gone over it with the colored pencil. It's just like marker. You don't expect to be able to draw over top of your colored pencil with a alcohol marker or a water-based marker and not have any movement. It's the same thing. Other than that, that's my opinion for today. And that rant was brought to you by people that leave different claimers on their packaging that aren't correct. The Flowood color pencils are a beautiful colored pencil. That's what they are. They're a colored pencil. They color absolutely wonderfully. They cover, they coat, all that fun stuff. I would definitely not run a paintbrush with water over top of them or a wet medium over top of them without sealing them. They do not, as they say on the back here, right here, permanent and waterproof. That's not true, because I was able to move them with water. So, but I was also able to move Prismas and Bronzeal. So I'm not saying that it's anything against these pencils themselves. I'm not saying don't buy Flowood because they're not water resistant, even though the packaging says they're waterproof. What I'm saying is make sure before you put your water products over top of any colored pencil, whether it be $500 Holbeins, and I've tested my Holbeins, they are waterproof. But not all of them, because sometimes, depending upon how they're manufactured, when they're manufactured, it is so subjective to different atmospheric or elemental situations that has a hand in it. For example, if you live, I don't know, let's say in Oregon. Right now it's really rainy and really wet in Oregon. And the pencils you've purchased or made are made in the desert somewhere. And they're used to being in that hot, dry climate. And then they get shipped here to its wet, moist climate, cold climate, well, cooler climate. I can't really say it's cold here. It's not Australia or not Australia, Alaska cold. It's a little bit chilly every once in a while. But you can't ship them to a colder climate like that and color with them right away, or open them right away and not expect them to absorb some sort of moisture into the wood. That's one issue that I have all the time, is my pencils split. and that's a moisture issue from the moisture in the air. So, always make sure that your pencils are well protected. And if you're back to what I was starting with in the first place, that I've run off on a different direction. If you're going to use a water-based product with your colored pencils, any colored pencils at all, not just an inexpensive brand, make sure that you protect your picture first, or test in a small area, test your pencils and make sure that whatever you're going to be using over top of it isn't going to move your pigment. Or don't agitate the pigment a lot. If you are going to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, it's going to agitate the pigment and move it. So, in conclusion, the Flowoods did very nicely. They covered absolutely fantastic. They are a nice pastel. They have some nice pastel colors. I'm going to draw you in here so you can see the picture that we colored. They blended beautifully, not only just with themselves, but with the blender pencil. All in all, for a 72 count set, fantastic. And like I said, when I bought them, they were fairly new to the market and very, very inexpensive. I'm just going to take a quick look for y'all and let you know how much they are at this point. And it seems Flowood covers a lot of different things. So let's see. Flowood color pencils, and they are still quite inexpensive. They are $20 with a 15% off coupon with a 1-day delivery. And there's a couple of other ones here as well. There's $17.65 is another one with a delivery for Thursday. Ships from Amazon, sold by the Amazon warehouse. So they are still fairly inexpensive for a 72 count colored pencil set. You can get them for about $18, if not cheaper. So for that kind of price, absolutely, I wouldn't hesitate to buy them again if I had the choice. I find that they are well made, they are well pigmented, and even though there's a couple of difficulties in the dip, like I wouldn't trust the dip on the back side of them here. So this part here, I wouldn't trust that color. I would definitely put them into a color swatch. But other than that, they lay down really nice. They color very, very nicely. They have a couple of issues that they have to figure out, I think, before they go into a larger pencil set, or even if they are distributing under a different name, I don't know. With the way that colored pencils have been lately, when this set came out, and the fact that it does have different, it doesn't go from 1 to 72, it goes all over the board in their numbers. For all I know, this could have been a rebranding of another brand because they weren't able to put those pencils in that other brand. I don't know. Altogether, I think they're a really nice pencil. So I hope that you enjoy them if you have purchased them, or if you want to purchase them, I will of course leave a link in the About section below. Just want to let you know that that is an affiliate link, so it will give me a small commission if you do purchase from the link. And of course, all of those small commissions do go towards the channel for prizes and shipping. So, but for what they are bought for, they work very well for what they're bought for, and you can't ask for much more than that. You can't ask a pencil to be more than what you bought it for. I would definitely buy them again. But I also don't use a ton of liquids in my coloring, so I'm not too concerned on whether or not there's going to be water on my painting or on my picture. So I wouldn't worry too much about it myself. But there are some people out there that do get very concerned on whether or not that's going to move with moisture, and it will. Again, like I said, I will leave a link to these wonderful pencils in the About section below, or the description below. This picture here is from Joanna Basford's Flourish, which she did put out at the start of the pandemic. So I will also leave a link to this as well if I can find it. I've had it for quite some time, so well, over a year. But I will try to find the link, and I will leave the link for this as well, because somebody has been I have been having comments on what it is and where to get it and that sort of thing. So it's one of Joanna Basford's, and if you have Joanna Basford's website address or link, you can look up Flourish, and it should take you right to the download for this. Of course, if you want to join us over on our Facebook group, let's see where my tongue is. We definitely would like you to do so. Just make sure that you fill out the application form in full. It's like 3 or 4 little questions is all that we ask that you fill out. And that's just to ensure the safety and security of our group. There's some not so nice people going around joining groups and taking people's pictures and selling things and scamming people in private messages and stuff like that. So we put out the application form to ensure that you are an actual person, not a bot, because bots won't fill those out. And to, of course, make sure that we're able to protect our members. Of course, like, comment, and subscribe. If you're not already a subscriber to the channel, please hit the subscribe button and make sure you ring the bell. I do put out a video every day except for Sunday, and even on Sundays I put out the odd one, or I have a special guest or a special party, or different special things happen on Sundays. So of course I am live on Wednesday afternoon, 3:30 Pacific Standard Time, for Work in Progress Wednesday, where it's just a color and chat, and I work on some things that I have going on, or I have already started and I want to finish up, and I want to hang out with all you guys while I do so. And on Saturday, we have a color along currently going with Minuet de Bonheur from Kanoko Ugusa. And we are working on a page out of that book, and we're almost finished it. I think we've got maybe 2 more episodes, and then we'll be finished that. And we are coloring with Divisa from DJ's Colorful Escape, and she is joining us every Saturday right now to color that picture. And she is also an administrator in our Facebook group. So definitely, if you're in the Facebook group or joining the Facebook group, absolutely say hello to our admins, which is Divisa, Larissa, Penny, and myself. Other than that, of course, I want to say relax, color, and stay safe, guys. Thank you all very much for joining me. I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye-bye for now, guys.